And we're starting with Raw, as prior to the show, it was advertised that CM Punk would make the decision what brand he'd sign with, and sure enough, Punk chose to stick with the red brand. While Punk signing with Raw was expected, what wasn't expected was Seth Rollins confronting him immediately after and laying into the best in the world. After Punk signed Adam Pearce's deal for Raw, he was immediately confronted by Rollins, leading to the crowd being torn between chanting for Punk and singing Seth's theme. Rollins made it clear he hates Punk and is waiting for Punk to show his true colors, and took exception to Punk saying he's home after years of slandering WWE's name. Punk did have something to say about his last WWE run, saying he made a tough decision to leave 10 years ago, and even apologized to fans who were upset to see him return to WWE. Rollins added that he is well aware that this is the last chance in Punk's career, and vowed to expose him for the fraud he thinks Punk is. Rollins seemed to show some genuine emotion during his promo, which always makes things entertaining and helps play into WWE blurring the lines of real and kayfabe in this storyline. After Rollins' rant was finished, Punk made it clear that this was Seth's only pass at laying into him verbally without any consequences before delivering a major announcement. Punk confirmed that he will compete in the 2024 Royal Rumble match, joining Cody Rhodes as the second person announced, and if he wins, he's coming for Seth Rollins' World Heavyweight title. Next month's event will mark exactly 10 years since Punk's final WWE match, as it was the 2014 Royal Rumble that broke the camel's back and led to him leaving WWE. While many had expected Cody to win and earn a WrestleMania rematch with Roman Reigns, Punk being in the match throws a huge wrench in those plans. Cody and Punk are the two clear favorites in the Men's Rumble match, and if Cody Reigns is still a match for WrestleMania, then Punk vs. Rollins could easily headline Night 1. The internet had Seth Rollins as the clear winner in the aftermath of the promo, as the world champion did some incredible mic work tonight, while Punk was able to hold his own. On Twitter, WWE and Impact Hall of Famer Bully Ray shared his take, simply sharing a scorecard reading Seth 1, Punk 0. But who do you think won this war of words? Are you on Team Rollins or Team Punk? Let us know in the comments below. After his hot promo and segment with Seth Rollins, Punk ended up meeting the Judgement Day in the first interaction between Punk and the faction. Backstage, Punk asked where Rhea Ripley was, which Damian Priest didn't seem too happy with, and he told Punk he hopes he finished his story before showing him the Money in the Bank briefcase. It's going to be interesting to see what's next for Punk and what else is to come other than the obvious Seth Rollins angle, and Priest made it clear that if Punk wins the title, his reign may end very soon. CM Punk was all over last night's show, as he also reunited with former tag team partner Kofi Kingston, shook hands with Chad Gable and Ricochet, and had a brief face-to-face with Drew McIntyre. During the opening segment of Raw, before Punk announced he was joining Raw, McIntyre made it clear he didn't want Punk around and would prefer if Punk jumped to SmackDown. McIntyre said he knows Punk destroys locker rooms, and said that unlike the crowd, he knows Punk personally and knows of his true colors. Despite what McIntyre wanted, Punk will be sticking on the red brand, and don't be surprised if these two lock horns when the time is right. Over to AEW, and the Backstage Brawl at All Out 2022 would overshadow that show, the fans saw, and result in CM Punk, The Elite, and others being suspended from the promotion. In the case of Ace Steel, he was fired for his role in the fight, in which he allegedly bit Kenny Omega, and would be represented by Stephen P. New in all litigation stemming from the fight. In a recent interview, Steele had kind words for Punk and wishes him the absolute best in his second run in WWE, stating that Punk is like family to him. On Twitter, New himself reacted to Steele's comments, saying he was proud Steele and Punk were his clients and would not represent them if he didn't believe in them as people. New added that Steele is right with his assertion, and that sometimes clients and friends become family based on how closely you work with them. Nowadays, though, Punk is back in WWE and is looking to put his AEW run behind him, and has reportedly been on his best behavior since returning to the company. Mike Johnson of PW Insider reports that Punk has been relaxed, chilled out, and happy at WWE events thus far, and that he's been seen joking with people backstage. Even those in WWE who aren't too keen on Punk have noticed the positive atmosphere around him, as it's been so far so good for the former AEW star. There is still a fear for several fans that this positivity can't last, and that it is merely a temporary good phase for Punk, as we likewise heard about Punk being positive at the start of his AEW run. Fans have not forgotten that Punk was very angry towards the end of his WWE run, as seen in his work Shoot Pipe Bomb in 2011 and his departure from the company in 2014. Some fans think Punk will return to his old form after the buzz around his return wears off, and some have even pointed at Seth Rollins' reaction last month as a sign that things can't last. While Rollins had quite the explosive reaction, it should be stressed that this was part of a storyline and that the two are scheduled to engage in a feud. Punk has made it clear to those in WWE he's ready to move on from AEW, but is it just a matter of time before we see an all-out-esque fight backstage at a WWE show? We'll have to wait and see. For now, Punk isn't punching folks backstage, but what he is doing is making serious money thanks to his new line of WWE merchandise. PW Insider reports that on the night of his return, Punk's merchandise exceeded expectation, reaching well into the six figures mark in one of the best showings of any superstar. Punk's new merchandise was released online minutes after his return at Survivor Series, and the former world champion is making serious money so far from his comeback. For some time, we've heard that AJ Styles is close to returning to WWE TV, and while it's been set to happen multiple times on SmackDown, we've yet to see the phenomenal one. In an update from PW Insider's Mike Johnson on his Hotline show, he confirmed that Styles is set to return any week now, and confirmed that AJ's comeback was planned to happen weeks ago. Johnson explained that it's up to creative to decide the right time to bring AJ back, as a major change in creative plans for him may explain why his return has been delayed. According to sources, while WWE originally planned to bring him back just as before, there has been a shift, with the new plan being for Styles to return as a heel. AJ reportedly let those in WWE know he wanted something different for his return, and not only is a heel turn in the works, but there are plans at this time to give him his own faction. As to whether the OC will be part of said faction, we'll have to see, but who do you want to see join AJ's club when he's back, and why? More from Raw, as Rhea Ripley is considered by many to be the de facto leader of the Judgement Day, and has certainly been the most successful of the five, especially in 2023. This week, Ripley and Finn Balor were back after missing last week, and during their time away, Dominic Mysterio and JD McDonough lost to the Creeds, and Dirty Dom lost the North American title. Amidst the slip that Judgment Day has faced, Rhea Ripley called Damian Priest out for assuming a leadership role and had clear tensions with the 41-year-old former United States champion. This isn't the first time tensions have been teased within the faction, and to create an example of leadership, Ripley would go on to get a dominant victory over Maxine Dupree. This wasn't an outright squash, but Ripley picked up the inevitable win, and Dupree appeared unconscious after the match, selling the toll of the intense bout. Ripley was then confronted by Ivy Nile, who appears poised to be her next challenger, and Nile will no doubt give the champ a physical bout. The tensions between Priest and Ripley weren't the only issues in Judgment Day, as we saw following an in-ring promo featuring the men of the faction. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, JD McDonough, and Dominic Mysterio came out to give a promo, but they were interrupted by R-Truth asking why they locked their clubhouse. Priest invited him into the ring and said that everybody loves Truth, except him, and started a beatdown on Truth, which included the other members of the faction. Priest, Balor, McDonough, and Mysterio continued until the Creed brothers made the save, and despite being outnumbered, Brutus and Julius were able to clear the ring. It appears Damian Priest and Finn Balor are waiting to defend the undisputed tag team titles against the Creed brothers, who have made a massive impact since coming to the main roster. As for the tensions within the Judgment Day, that came thanks to Dominic Mysterio, who repeatedly turned to the rest of the faction saying, "I warned you about them." Mysterio had told the faction to be careful about the Creeds, and it's clear that Damian Priest was getting annoyed at everything that was going on. Within a matter of months, the Creeds have become the #1 contenders for the tag titles, and after making the save for R-Truth on Raw, decided to help out another superstar. In the main event of the show, Cody Rhodes faced Shinsuke Nakamura, but when Cody went for the crossroads, Nakamura countered and misted Rhodes, ending the match in a DQ. Following that, Nakamura leveled Rhodes with the Kinshasa and then went to grab a steel chair, but the Creed brothers showed up to make the save. The King of Strong Style left and then came back and attacked Cody again, as it's clear that the rivalry between these two is far from over. But what did you make of this match, and what do you make of the tensions within the Judgment Day? Share your takes in the comments down below. Jey Uso opened this week's Raw by bringing back YEET after not being able to use it briefly, before turning his attention to his opponent on the night, Drew McIntyre. This match comes after McIntyre's vicious attack on Sami Zayn last week, which led to WWE reporting that Zayn was out of action with a torn meniscus. On Raw, Jey addressed Sami's injury before being interrupted by Drew, who came out and offered a fake apology to Zayn. Drew seemingly apologized as a way to mock Jey, who never apologized to him for what he did while still in the bloodline, and has made his views very clear about Jey and many in the locker room. Once the match started, Jey was unloading on the Scottish Warrior and was able to go toe-to-toe with the former WWE Champion, who's beaten the likes of Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton. McIntyre uncharacteristically gouged his eyes while the referee wasn't looking, before hitting a Claymore for the win, and Michael Cole dubbed his win as disgraceful. Between the promo and the match, WWE gave these two the first 30 minutes and delivered a solid encounter that improved on their performance from a few weeks ago. Both men played their roles well, especially McIntyre, who is fitting right in as a top heel in WWE once again. After years as a tag team wrestler, Jey Uso is making a name for himself in singles competition, but despite his prominent booking, he hasn't been picking up wins on Raw. As a fan recently pointed out, Jey has yet to win a singles match on Raw since coming to the Red brand back in September, and is now 0-5 in singles competition on Raw. Hopefully this will change, as for as much as WWE wants fans to see Jey as a potential major star, it'll be impossible if he doesn't actually start getting some wins. As we mentioned, Jey Uso is using YEET again, as WWE has seemingly acquired the rights to use the term, but what exactly does YEET mean? Well, the term has two meanings, with the first being a general exclamation of excitement, while the other is slang for to throw. Jey will likely be yeeting superstars over the top rope next month in the Men's Royal Rumble match, as the sky's the limit for main event Jey, especially now that he has his word back. Each year, WWE hosts a whole week of activities in the lead up to their annual WrestleMania event, but when WWE descends upon a city, they're often joined by other promotions. Other companies will usually host shows in the same city throughout WrestleMania week, and for Joey Janela, the reason for this is blatantly obvious. Speaking with Fightful, Janela talked about Indi promotions hosting shows close to WrestleMania and said it's simply a ploy from smaller companies to target fans. He said, "We're piggybacking off them. They can do whatever the they want. We're piggybacking off them. We're stealing fans that they could have at their events. It's their weekend. We're piggybacking. It's WrestleMania weekend. It's not Indie Mania weekend. They can do whatever they want." WrestleMania 40 will take place in Philadelphia next year, and GCW has already announced its The Collective events for that week, and expect more shows in Philly in early April 2024. It was in September that WWE parted ways with several superstars in the first mass layoff of talent since the launch of TKO Group Holdings. While most NXT stars are subject to 30-day non-compete clauses, some main roster stars were working in NXT and had to wait out 90 days, meaning their clauses will expire soon. On December 21st, the likes of Mustafa Ali, Shelton Benjamin, Dana Brooke, Elias, Masay, Mansoor, Dolph Ziggler, Matt Riddle, Top Dollar, Aaliyah, and others will be free to compete anywhere else. It's never fun to lose your job, but these ex-superstars now have the chance to show what they can do out of the ring, and we're excited to see what's to come for these stars starting next week. When Brian Pillman Jr. joined NXT, he began competing as Lexis King, with the first name being a nod to his sister Alexis, and his last name being a nod to his mother's married name, King. This new name clearly means a lot to King, who has explained on TV that he barely knew his father Brian Pillman, but this week, the NXT star wanted a new name for his legion of fans. While streaming the popular online game RuneScape, King said that the name fans gave themselves, registered Lex offenders, is funny, but it's one that has to die as it can't be used on TV. While King appreciated the creativity, this name would not pass WWE's PG rating, and perhaps a term like intellectuals will be more fitting for the fans of the NXT superstar. In the latest showdown of Bronson Reed and Ivar, big meaty men once again slapped meat, and this time it was Reed who got the win. Reed hit a superplex which could have easily broken the ring to end a fantastic match that was fun from start to finish. Raw also saw women's tag team action with Katana Chance and Kaden Carter taking on Candice LeRae and Indi Hartwell, while Piper Niven and Chelsea Green were on commentary. With only a few minutes, the four competitors tried to get in as much as they could, with KC2 picking up the win by pinning Hartwell, and while there were good parts, this was mostly filler. On Raw, Becky Lynch played a video showing how Nia Jax broke her nose 5 years ago, and said how the two never had a chance to properly follow up on that. Jax then made her way out and said Lynch was lucky she didn't connect with full force when she hit the infamous punch, and this short segment helped set up a future match. Now, Gunther has been one of the most dominant champions in WWE in an era that features stellar champions like Roman Reigns and Rhea Ripley. On this week's Raw, Gunther accepted a rematch from The Miz, but with a catch, which we found out about on this week's show. Last night, Johnny Gargano, competing in his native Cleveland, teamed with Tommaso Ciampa and a mystery partner to face Imperium, and that partner turned out to be The Miz. It was DIY and The Miz who got the win over Imperium, and post-match, Gunther scolded his stablemates before The Miz confronted him for another shot at the Intercontinental title. Gunther agreed to the match on the condition that if Miz loses, he can never challenge for the Intercontinental Championship as long as Gunther holds the title. The Miz had an impressive feud with Gunther, but like every other challenger, fell short of dethroning him, and it'll be interesting to see if DIY backs him up in his title match. Could The Miz be the one to end Gunther's record-breaking title reign, or will this end in tragedy for the A-lister? Let us know in the comments. WWE still has a few episodes of Raw before 2024, but big plans are being made for the January 1st edition of the Red brand. In a backstage segment, Adam Pearce announced that Seth Rollins will defend the World Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre on that show, in what will be a blockbuster way to kick off the new year. And that was this week's Raw. And what did you make of the show, which saw plenty of CM Punk and tensions in the Judgment Day? Let us know below. This week, the WWE on Fox account caused a stir by using the phrase "dem boys" in a tweet to describe the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley, as the term is associated in wrestling with the Briscoes. Maria Kanellis was one of many who voiced support for Mark Briscoe after he called out WWE for the tweet, but this earned the former 24/7 champion a lot of negativity. In a tweet, Maria said, "It's about time to move on," and temporarily left the platform, but returned to share links to her other social media profiles where fans can reach her. While some may have been annoyed at Maria for supporting Mark, there were some that took things too far, as Maria spoke about receiving threats to her family as well as sexist comments. When Mike Bennett, Maria's husband, spoke in her defense, one troll called Maria a slur we can't use, and Mike took the classy road by saying that he hopes the fan finds the peace he's clearly lacking. The WWE on Fox tweet may have been disrespectful in the eyes of some, but this situation is getting out of hand, and hopefully cooler heads can prevail from here on. A few weeks back, Dixie Carter caused a stir when she was backstage at Monday Night Raw, with fans left wondering as to the reason the former TNA owner was at the show. Backstage, Carter reunited with some of her old TNA friends, including Cody Rhodes, Chelsea Green, Nick Aldis, and Bruce Pritchard, the latter of whom explained the situation on his podcast. He said, "I've always maintained and loved Dixie Carter. I think she's a wonderful person and we remain good friends to this day. I reached out, I thought it would be great since we were going to be in Nashville to invite her to the show and say hello. It was terrific to see her and reconnect and say hello." While some fans speculated that WWE was looking to bring Carter into work, that wasn't the case, and she was simply at the Nashville show in her hometown to enjoy the show. Carter was in charge of TNA when the company was trying to compete with WWE, but her days as a key wrestling name are in the past, and she's simply pleased to be able to enjoy Monday Night Raw. Braun Strowman has been on the shelf for some time due to a neck injury that required surgery, and since then, the monster among men has been focused on getting better. Strowman recently said he'd love to be back in the ring for next month's Royal Rumble, and while we don't know if that'll happen, the latest update bodes well for the former Universal Champion. Speaking with WrestleBinge, Strowman gave an update on his condition, which has kept him off TV since May, and said that he has been given the green light to start weight training again. Doctors wouldn't greenlight Braun for weight training if he hadn't made massive improvements in his neck, but when asked about a return, Strowman had no fixed date at this time. Strowman returned to WWE in September of 2022, but has spent much of his run out of action. And how would you book Strowman's return? As a face or a heel? Let us know in the comments. Now, Mark Henry has had an incredible life, from competing in the Olympics to becoming the world's strongest man to his runs in both WWE and AEW over the years. Fans will soon get an in-depth look into Henry's life, as during the Kurt Angle Show podcast, Henry shared that a documentary about him is set to be released next year. The doc will drop in January 2024, and according to Henry, will be close to 3 hours long, so fans will get to learn a ton about the impressive career and life of the WWE Hall of Famer. And we're ending today with the Iron Claw, as MJF was at the premiere of the Von Erich biopic, and he wasn't the only notable name from wrestling to walk the red carpet. As seen in photos shared online, John Cena joined MJF for the premiere, and Liv Morgan and Baron Corbin were also at the premiere, and we can only wonder what talks the AEW World Champion had with these big names from WWE.